Howdy, everyone. Welcome to the Wild Rivers podcast in 2025. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It is a balmy 27 degrees here today in the Quonset hut. My barn, we lovingly also call this our gym, slash podcast studio, slash man cave. If you don't know what a Quonset hut is, Google it. We'll leave that there for you. We just finished our Wednesday workout. I'm just going to read it to you. Get out there and do it. Tell us how you did. Tell us how much you beat us by. We call this the Mountain Man workout because it's a lot of legs, but we got 50 burpees, 50 step-ups, 50 box jumps, 50 deadlifts at 135, 50 wall balls with a 20-pound ball, 50 jump squats, 50 kettlebells,
Kettlebell swings.
50 lunges each leg. Kettlebell swings, 50 lunges each leg. Can't read my own writing. Took me about 30 minutes and change today. Again, it's 27 degrees.
Yeah.
It's pretty cold. It's 6 a.m. in the morning when we started. How'd you do it?
39.90 or 59.
Mike?
I didn't even look at the time.
Hey, participation trophy today. No, but seriously, working out at 6 a.m. in the cold in the winter, just getting out here and moving is a good thing. So we just wrapped that up. We're going to hit our goals update real quick. I know we're just a couple weeks now into the year, but this is part of the accountability piece of the show. So for me, number one goal, all the fitness stuff, feel like progressing pretty nicely for a weekend, done half Murph twice already, so feeling good about that. In my Bible every day, I'm giving myself a D+ on that effort.
D+.
I'm actually recommitting to doing the Bible in 1 year app to hold me accountable to that, and I'm going to start that today.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Chris, how you doing on goals?
I'll start with that one. I'm about an 80% adherence on daily word and prayer. So I grabbed just a daily, like old school daily calendar, like whatever you call it, the kind of like this thing here. And I just wrote at the top of it what I wrote or what I read. And then for me, I'm journaling out just a few prayers for the day and just things I'm wrestling with. And that's been really good each morning. If I'm on the road right out of bed in the morning, like I'm coming here, I've just been trying to make sure that I, turn on, listen to a chapter or two a couple times over, and then shut it down and sit in silence for a little bit and just spend some time.
What a good man. This is one of the reasons that we're friends, because this guy makes me a better person.
So that's a work in progress. The other thing that's been a good check-in, so every night my wife and I are doing kind of an intentional check-in, like what'd you read today, what's God showing you, what's going on in your life, what happened today, kind of intentional series of questions. That's actually, believe it or not, when we do it, we're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Why are we not doing this every day? And then it's also one of the hardest things to stay consistent with. So I'd give myself barely a passing grade on that this year, but on December 1, I started off sick. So I pretty much wasted the first, today was a struggle working out. Like my energy wasn't there yet. I feel good, but the energy's not back. So I feel like I pretty much just regressed for the first 2 weeks.
A couple weeks now.
Yeah, this was a nasty one. So anyway, that's the quick rundown. I'm looking forward to getting back on the physical stuff. The mental stuff I think is going pretty well. And
good.
Yeah.
One other goal update for me that's relatively significant. Part of the reason we started this is to do adventure trips.
Mm-hmm.
We love hunting the outdoors. Well, I got a pretty big update served to me at the beginning of the year that I am attending my beloved sister-in-law's wedding in Santorini, Greece in the middle of the elk rut this year. Love her to death, really do, but golly, you could have picked a better time to have a wedding, especially in Greece. So my archery elk hunt is currently up in the air, to say the least, and I'm looking for a potential pivot to another type of adventure trip. Leaning on this guy here, our local Southern Oregon hunting expert we'll introduce here in a second. But thinking about maybe doing Roosevelt's closer to home, or maybe going to Wyoming and burning some points to chase a mule deer or something. I don't know. We'll unpack that over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do a quick intro to some of our sponsors here because we couldn't do it without them. First, Duck Camp Apparel, founded in 2018 by one of my absolute best friends in the whole world. Duck Camp makes awesome outdoor gear. I've been lucky enough to know them since they started the business and been able to test almost every piece of gear that they make as it's come out. They make really awesome apparel. They're great people. They're based in Austin, Texas. They like freedom. I've taken their stuff to the Continental Divide in the middle of snowstorms, the Pacific Coast marshes in the middle of winter. Snuck up on sheep with a bow and their Midland camo at 20 yards, and it's just great gear. They make great camo patterns, and it's got a great vibe. The people are great that work there, and I'm proud to support the gear that they make. I think you guys have gotten a couple pieces as well, and started to really use and appreciate the gear that they make. So Duck Camp, check our friends out there. They make awesome gear for the outdoors. Wild Rivers Coffee Co. So my wife and I started Wild Rivers Coffee in 2020 because we love coffee. Who doesn't love coffee? Every good red-blooded American should start their day drinking coffee. That's a personal belief. And if you're going to do that, you might as well drink darn good coffee. And objectively, it's hard to come by. Even good coffee shops with great vibes sometimes don't have the best coffee. So we were on a mission to roast fresh, whole bean, great coffee. On top of that, we decided that with every bag, we give back to conservation organizations like Ducks Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, American Prairie, and others. If you like coffee, Wild Rivers Coffee is the coffee for you, especially if you like conservation and the outdoors and cool packaging designed by my wife. Use the code WR Podcast, all caps, for 25% off your first order of Wild Rivers Coffee today. And finally, Martin Outdoor Property Group. What the heck is that, Chris?
Well, you're a client.
I am.
That's how we met.
That is how we met. That's how I met both of you guys.
That's right.
That's true. That's a small world. That's awesome.
So I was looking all over the country for a ranch in the West. And through a number of years of traveling, we decided that Southern Oregon was a pretty good place to check out. I found a property listed on Zillow or something gross like that. In like 2019, there's a sweet property out in Sam's Valley here outside of Medford. There were elk in the pictures. Then there's this picture of this guy in this black cowboy hat that was a real estate agent. I was like, who is that guy? So I clicked on his picture. It goes to his page, talks about Martin Outdoor Property Group, and he's talking about his team. He's talking about loving the Lord. He's talking about focusing exclusively on, rural, ranch, farm, real estate. I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want a true teammate who understands the ranch market in Southern Oregon. We met for lunch. I came on a fishing trip with my wife. We met for lunch. You were kind of exactly what I hoped for in person, and it felt like a true partner in our mission to find a place here in Southern Oregon. Best in the business, I can tell you now as a client that, all the way through, buying a property, doing some hardcore negotiation with the sellers, and just getting us exactly what we wanted for our dream property here in Southern Oregon. I couldn't recommend it any group more than Martin Outdoor Property Group. And not only Chris, but his entire team, just amazing people, some of the most experienced, well-educated, smart, hardworking people in the rural ranch real estate market here in Southern Oregon, and probably all of Oregon for that matter. How'd I do?
Perfect. Better than I did.
Cool. Well, Mike can expand on that, but
The only expansion is when you're negotiating, if the person you're negotiating with thinks they won, you won.
I love it. Always a salesperson. All right. So who is Mike Lee? Mike Lee is sitting here with us today, and I'm just going to throw it out there that Mike Lee is the huntingest guy in Southern Oregon. And I'll give you a little background story. So I just told you about Martin Outdoor Property Group, working with you and your team, Alex, especially on looking for our ranch here in Southern Oregon. We came to visit this property we're sitting on now, and Mike was the listing agent on the property. So Mike and I met. I'm touring around.
A little background. In between there, Mike worked for Sotheby's, now works for Martin Outdoor Property Group.
Good
So there's a little clarification that has to happen there.
So I'm taking a little bit of credit for this relationship coming together through the. Not really. You guys have a longer history than that. But anyway, so we meet. We're touring around the property and just talking about all the things you talk about when you're looking at a farm and ranch, and realize pretty quickly that we have a lot of shared interests. Within a couple hours of meeting, I'm somehow holding a turkey tag that I purchased on my phone, and we're running around chasing turkeys all over without my agent. I'm going out with the selling agent. So obviously there was
Listing agent.
There's
listing
some
agent.
trust there.
There was a lot of trust there. And I would say Number one, I spent that day with Mike, and he had the best pickup line to ask permission to hunt on a property I've ever heard in my life. I consider myself a pretty dang good sales guy, but that was one of those lines I was like, wow.
What did I say?
So we went up to a property owner and we found some turkeys on his property, called him over to the gate because he was outside, and he comes marching up and clearly doesn't want to talk to us. And we're wearing camo, so it's pretty obvious what we're there to interrupt his day for. So you talk to him for a few minutes, make some good connections about people you might know in the area, and then you just throw it out there just conversationally. It's like, you wouldn't happen to not like turkeys, would you?
Yeah, that was fun, man. That was a great time too. Unfortunately, he did not let us hunt those turkeys,
He
right?
didn't, but golly, that was a good line.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed the day, and it just felt natural to go and get to know you a little bit, and then have the opportunity to potentially to talk about the listing some more. I mean, believe me, I was trying to do a job.
Oh yeah, you were selling.
Client. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
low-key, but
yeah, very subtle.
yeah.
Which I learned that from Chris 4 or 5 years ago. I'll never forget it. Chris said, you know, a really good, professional agent is an agent without telling anyone about real estate or talking about real estate. Just be a good person and help people, and it'll come out. And
Yeah.
you got to be the benefactor of that.
Yeah, it was great. The whole experience of buying this property was great working with all of you guys.
Well, and the neat thing there was it felt like a win-win. The sellers really liked you guys. They were happy to be selling the property. You guys felt like you won the lottery, getting the property. Like we hope for those kinds of outcomes, but that's my own.
Oh, and the family that you bought this from, yeah, they absolutely love you and your wife, and that you're a young family. I mean, we still talk about it. We'll probably talk about it tonight at the social. Seriously.
Yeah, it was a really unique situation where they were looking for the right group to really hand over a property to be caretakers, and stewards of, and
Yeah.
we felt like we were genuinely offering that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I got a little kind of intro just to kind of peel back the onion a little bit more on Mike.
Go for it.
I don't remember how. I think one day I cold called him out of the blue and asked him if he had any interest in leaving Sotheby's. I think we had coffee or lunch or something in Central Point one day. I mean, we'd talked before, but just business-wise or whatever. But his reputation preceded him as being someone who was honest, someone who was loved the Lord, like you said, and just. I was like, well, I'll just cold call this guy out of nowhere and see if he has any interest in switching companies. At that time, he had zero interest in switching companies, but we developed a friendship, and I gave up on recruiting pretty early. I'm like, oh, well, if he ever wants to make a change, it'll happen. But I'm like, this guy's actually, I feel like I need to learn from this guy in the outdoor space. There's a whole bunch of things that he has accomplished and done. I'm like, hey, Mike, if I can learn, like, I'd love to learn. I'd love to, tag along, do whatever. Like, I feel like a rookie in many ways in the outdoor space, and he's got all kinds of stories and different things and things he's accomplished. And you invited me one day, and this is pre Chris rededicating himself to getting back in shape physically. And he said, hey, I got an extra day. We got a property we've been hunting on, and we need to kill some management bucks out if you want to shoot one. And I had no intention of hunting in Oregon that year. I had plans to go to Idaho and other stuff. And I'm like, sure, I can carve out an afternoon. We'll run up there. Anyway, we get to talking. Great conversation. I don't remember how well you remember that day, but I was like, oh, this is really cool conversation just with a neat brother. And we hike up to the top of this, I'll call it Little Hill. I was dying back then. He was probably laughing under his breath. He's like, but anyway, long story short, we won't tell too much of the hunt story. Long story short, I end up shooting a buck. We go across what I'll call today a little canyon. Then it felt like the biggest thing I'd walked across in 10 years. Packed this buck out. I don't know. We maybe did 3.5 miles that day.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. I felt like I was going to die about half the time, packing this deer out and getting back to the truck. And I just asked a simple question. I'm like, dude, what's the first step to like not dying while doing this? And he's like, just walk. Just get out and walk. I'm like, well, that's way too simple. Like in my mind, coming from a lifting background, a sports background, like everything was regimented out and you had routines and routines and everything. He's like, just walk. I'm like, well, that's not the darn simplest thing you could ever do. And to add to it, he's like, I'll meet you. Just tell me when you want to go. I'll meet you. We'll go walk up a hill.
I need to walk too.
Yeah. Yeah. And between he and some encouragement that he and Dan really were the two biggest encouragers in my shift in life and fitness area. It was a slow grow, but I want to say thank you for that. But I think that's part of his heart for people. That's what makes him a good salesperson, is he actually cares. Like, he's not that great a salesperson. He's a good people person. No offense.
Thanks.
No offense. But that's what makes a really good salesperson. Is you're not a salesperson. You're a people person. So
Yeah.
I say that to introduce, like, what interested me in learning from you was the background you have in, I'll call it just outdoor accomplishment or adventure experience. Like, I'm just kind of curious how that kind of came to be. You have all Americans as brothers, and then you're the hunter in the middle of the family.
They're hunters too. Don't get me wrong. And they're all the brothers are studs. All my brothers are.
But you grew up here in Southern Oregon. You went to school here. You went to, was it Crater or South, or where did you end up going?
I went to Crater.
Crater,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, first, thanks for the compliment. That led to a really fun walking regimen of hills and mountains and things. I grew up here in Central Point. Came from a large family, all brothers. I do have a sister, but it was a half sister, so we didn't really grow up together.
I would have hated to be one in that. You'd be so tough if you were one of those brothers. I can't imagine
4 brothers. Yeah.
I can't imagine the
And where are you at in line on that?
Right smack dab in the middle, baby.
the carnage that happened in that house. I'm sure I feel bad for your parents.
It wasn't. I know lots of people that had. It was awesome having brothers to in a wrestling mat in a shop like this to go and beat each other up or whatever you got to do. Like, it all, and anytime that ever took place, it was always outside of the house. Lived outside of town a little ways, so it made for a really great childhood. I'm really thankful for that.
Well, when I met you, and this is my fault as a human, but especially having worked as a hunting guide in Texas for a number of years, I'm used to a lot of people that talk to me about hunting and speak in absolutes, and my initial reaction is to dismiss, like, oh man, this guy's a know-it-all, hired me to guide him around.
I am a know-it-all.
And he's going to tell me how to hunt all weekend.
Yeah.
And so when Mike and I first hung out that day, we were turkey hunting, and then we became friends, and he's talking about hunting, and he's speaking in, like, absolutes. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And it's also how I was introduced to you. You were the selling agent on the house. So
Yeah.
and the way I know, he's like, you're a real estate broker, and then you hunt.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you are a hunter as much as you are a real estate broker. And over the last, 2+ years of knowing you, like, and unpacking, like, your accomplishments in the outdoors, you've worked as a guide for decades. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Taking people hunting all over, taking Chris to Alaska to do a successful caribou hunt, archery caribou hunt.
I did not take Chris. He took me, actually. My back was out. He carried everything.
That was further along in his fitness journey than where we started.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the goals.
Yeah.
I remember on one of our first hikes, you were like, man, I'd love to go to Alaska. I'm like, get in shape. I'll go with you.
So all that to say, I've gotten to know you and gotten to respect your opinions on, how to hunt, especially in the Pacific Northwest, so much that, we want you to be a contributor, a consistent contributor to this show to help our listeners, gain from your experience of a lifetime of outdoor pursuits in this part of the world. And so I
want to make sure you come down and work out with us all the time.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think as we sit here today, it's important for folks to know that you're going to be pretty consistent on the show. You do a lot in the outdoors, from guiding, a lot of blacktail hunters, especially.
Not too many anymore, but yeah, I've been doing that for, since I was 18.
Well, you were doing long range when long range wasn't cool yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
a long time ago.
Yeah.
2009, 2008, somewhere in there is when I started to delve into that. Yeah.
So how'd you get into hunting in the first place? Obviously, you said you lived out of town a little ways. You had a bunch of brothers. Was your dad into it and kind of ushered you guys all to, hey, get out of the house and go do this thing?
So when you have 5 brothers in a house and you're not, say, the strongest or the best wrestler, you still got to eat. So I made a willow bow. No, but I mean, just started shooting a bow when I was young. I really loved to fish when I was young. We did sports, went to school, and we hunted. That was kind of the expectation. During archery season as a kid, if we weren't playing sports, we were hunting. And I never got asked, do you want to go? That's the interesting thing I think back about it. And at the time, I didn't really, it was fun, but it wasn't like we weren't successful. We did not kill anything for 5 or 6 years. I mean, I didn't put an arrow in an elk till I was 20 and didn't even recover that bull. You should have recovered it, but you learn how to track better as you grow. So essentially, grew up doing it. And learned to love and have more respect for the animals the older I got. I mean, there's definitely there's a time in your life where you're just out there to try to kill something, and and you're so focused on that. And anymore, I'm focused on the adventure, or the people that I'm with. When we go to Idaho, I'm asking the people that I have the most respect for to go with me. Not saying, people that I want to be around that are brothers in the Lord, or physical brothers. My brother went last year, but I just want to be around people that bring out the best, in everyone around them, because really, I mean, you hunt. That's what hunting camps should be, right? They're a time to get out of the normal. And
Well, you were just talking about one of your revelations from last year in your solo hunt is that the fellowship aspect of hunting like came to light big time, and the lack of that experience being part of it being, something you were like, I'm not sure I want to do the solo thing again because I'm missing out on that.
Totally. I think it's a natural progression as a hunter too, to like truly become a conservationist through decades of doing it, right? Like everyone says they're a conservationist, but it's, when you first start out hunting, you just want to kill something and hopefully something big.
Yeah, or anything. I mean, my first buck was a spike. You're absolutely right. I mean, there was a time in my life when I didn't make a lot of good decisions as a younger person in the hunting woods, and I'm not gonna go into detail on any of those are gone. But there was also, I remember, a very specific time in my life when I said to myself, that's it. I'm not doing anything stupid anymore. And, and I say anything stupid, meaning breaking the rules. I want to be ethical. I want to beat the animal at its game. And that takes time, I maybe see young people that are making poor decisions, and, if they ask me my opinion, I'd share it with them. But I just understand that's, hopefully they can get through it and learn to admire the animals that they're hunting, and now managing a property and just trying to do what's best for.
That's some sage wisdom right there. I think managing the property is an interesting place to kind of also introduce you in that adventure you've been on now for a couple of years. What does that property look like? You don't have to tell us exactly where it is, but
Well, I mean, it's in the winter range for blacktail. It was actually a property I was selling, and honestly, I just kept praying on it because I wanted to buy that property so bad, and I had no vision of how. No, at the time, no means of how, and for the course of about 5 months, doors started opening, and since owning that, I feel like every year I'm trying to improve the habitat, trying to also improve the home side of things, working with the Fish and Game to clear brush, and putting down seed, putting down fertilizer. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I get so much enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, we should unpack that fully in a future episode, because I think that would be a really cool conversation about developing real
I
estate.
think we should go out there,
Yeah,
kind of walk around and
sure. Yeah. No, I'm really thankful for that property. So
It's been fun watching you work on it, and some of the hours you put in, early mornings and late nights and stuff, has been significant. But it's been really cool to see, you go through that process, and I guess kind of the joy and excitement surrounding the conversation. You're like, I got to do this today. This was fun.
Yeah.
Got to sit on a cat all day long. Yes.
And putting in the hours is an interesting topic to dive in on with Mike, because nobody around here just like puts in the time like Mike Lee.
Oh, come on.
And I think one of the things I got to ask is like, I mean, we're all married, happily married, and we all juggle this passion that some might call an obsession. How do you do it?
My wife tries to give me a ton of grace and mercy. Or I shouldn't say try, she does. Truly, you know, I, I really think God brings us to people. You know, if we put our eyes on the Lord, He's gonna draw us to people that help us to grow, because He's a good Father, right? And my wife, you know, I'm very thankful for her, for the fact that she puts up with me, because truly, she's right. Like, I do hunt a ton.
You hunt probably more than the rest of our office combined, all by yourself. And there's a lot of people who hunt in there. I mean, to put that in perspective.
Like, you know, but I am going to invest in a Starlink, you know, a mobile Starlink this year, so that I.
So you neglect your job while you're going. I'm just saying, you hunt a lot.
Yeah, this year was an exception. I mean, it went on, and then I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm back to work, and I was working for a couple of weeks, and then I had one of my really good friends in Texas say, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" Or "What are you doing the next day?" I said, "What do you have in mind?" And he goes, "Why don't you come to Texas? We'll hunt a couple whitetails there. Then we'll go to Oklahoma, and we'll kill some pigs in the meantime." I'm like, "Great, let me check with my wife." And she said, "Go." And well, I burned out of here. It was.
When you hustle too, like I see the way you work, not only in hunting, but in your job. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's just what you do. You work hard, whether it's selling real estate or chasing big blacktail or elk or.
Thanks for the compliment, but you're right. I used to be so much more hyper. I was so hyper from 2nd to 5th grade. They had me in the corner, and that's not an exaggeration. I literally sat in the corner with a physical barrier around me that I could barely see over, because I couldn't stop talking. If I thought, I still catch myself interrupting people, you know. But that's just, you know, something I can continue to work on.
I'll be asking you some questions for my son, because I think he's following in those footsteps.
But it's okay. I mean, that's the thing. You know, I taught school for 10 years too, right? And these boys, it's not normal to have them constrained. I mean, they gotta get out there and run and have dodgeballs thrown at their face, you know? I threw my shoulder out teaching school. Like, I mean, bad. I couldn't throw anything. I had to throw underhand, because those boys just needed that attention, you know, at that time. And I was in the same boat, and your son's right there. But hey, you know what? When he's 40 years old, he's still going to be a go-getter.
Oh yeah.
You know, that energy tapers off to a normal, manageable level.
It's an interesting just societal thought that like the go-getters are kind of the ones that get squashed in the system, if you will, being brought up. And
Yeah.
I truly feel like outdoors is a really healthy outlet for those type of, especially young boys, to go just run around the woods and get some of that energy out in a really healthy way that they can learn and develop and make mistakes. And
yeah, absolutely. And with girls too. I mean, I have 3 daughters, and you know, they all enjoyed going with me, or you know, and that's one of my regrets, is that I didn't take them enough, because I was so immature and focusing on, well, being a younger hunter, you know, so focused on the kill rather than the experience. And that's my advice to all younger, you know, dads. You know, take those kids, as even when they don't want to go, like, go, no, we're gonna go, you know, because they still think back or send me pictures of the times that we went. You know, they just really enjoyed it, you know. But for boys, it's a little different. It's like, get out there, get dirty, get muddy, you know.
well, and I asked you the question on how do you stay married because you hunt so much, but I would also tell all the listeners that, you know, I think you and I were talking, I think I was on the way home from an elk hunt. You were leaving to go to an elk hunt this year. And I heard you get a call from one of your daughters, and you turned around and drove 3 hours the wrong direction to go help her out. So I just want to build him up in that area too.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So she broke down, and I was a couple hours away and headed home from, I was in Northeast Oregon. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all I can say about what rings in my heart is just love your wife. That's what rings. I just have to, no matter how I'm able to do that, I just have to, I have to find ways to say I love you or show that I love you. And I'm terrible at it. I'll tell you that. I mean, believe me. And I hope that the reciprocation is that she respects me. It's that simple, but uh, you know,
That's great advice. I mean, it's so simple that it's almost like it's hard to hear it because
but
it's so simple.
it is so simple. It's as simple as a text and believe me, I'm not trying to be put on a pedestal. I'm literally terrible at this. Like seriously, my wife is the most low maintenance, probably low maintenance person I know, and that works perfect. But I hope to improve with it. So
I think that mindset of continuous improvement, I really respect. You never reach the goal, you never accomplish the thing. You're always just trying to get better.
and that I'll tie in. When I made the decision to talk to Chris about joining his team for real estate, that was the goal. That was the motivation on my side was I just want to surround myself with people that I see that I can learn from and that I can improve, and I mean, that falls back on, that God brings us closer to people that are gonna grow us if we're focused on that.
Well, I think that goes back to the culture. I'm gonna hammer down on culture for a second. I think there's the saying, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. Kinds of conversations. Is it?
It is. It talks about in a mirror though.
Okay. Shame on me for not knowing that.
Find it. I'll get back to you on it.
But culture, like when we were building the business, but even more so in my own family and church and places, like the culture, the people you put around you is so important. And on the flip side of that, like the reason that door was open to you was the character and the culture that you brought. It wasn't, if you were a slacker as a salesperson, the door wouldn't have been open. But that wasn't the leading reason. It was, are we going to be better as a group with that culture included in what we're doing? And yes, I have to put up with relentless hunting stories all the time that I hear through the office, and but other than that,
They're exciting.
Yes, they are. I'm just not. I mean, I just don't have the same free time as this man.
It's like, check out this broadhead. Look at how this thing performed.
But exactly, that's the culture of like just the camaraderie and the fun that we really do have. Like it's a fun place to be.
I love my job.
So,
I was told one time that everybody you hire and bring into a team changes your culture.
Yep.
And is that change going to be for the better?
Yep.
Or not?
Yep.
And I think that's a really interesting way to not only think about teams and work culture, but to think about your friends and who you associate with. Are they making you better or not?
Well, I very specifically this year my wife and I wrote out, like, because we're fortunate to have a pretty decent sphere of people that we care about, but we very intentionally wrote out the people who we wanted to more intentionally spend time with, either as a family or as individuals. And it was kind of a cool process where you go, well, who do I have X amount of time in the day. I'm going to have relationships with all these people, but if I have an extra day or half day or morning or whatever, like how do I want to intentionally develop the relationships that are most important instead of allowing relationships to develop accidentally? And it was a really good exercise for us, and you gentlemen were on that list. But those were really looking at relationship. And I think that's probably, if I had to give one word that describes Mike outside of hunting, it would be he's a good relationship person. like that's how he's built his business. That's how he built the guide business, you know, relationships with people and just being a good communicator. And I think those are just really important life skills like that we need to, as men, as husbands, as business people, as people in the community, like to be good at relationships with other people is a huge skill that we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the fellowship aspect of life.
Truly, I like being around good people or
Yeah.
people that are not bringing people down.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it comes down to for me.
For sure.
Positivity is huge in that, I think. Building people up.
And I don't do that. I don't do that perfectly, but yeah, being around half glass half full type people, you know.
Makes a big difference.
Oh man,
I heard a quote from a special forces operator pretty recently that said, bad psychology is more contagious than the flu.
Ooh,
Said differently, you know, bad culture,
yeah,
bad vibes
yeah,
is more
morale.
contagious than the flu, bad morale.
Yep, yeah. Back in the military days, that the word morale was thrown around a lot.
Were you in the military?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Didn't know that. Golly, this guy gets more interesting every time I talk to him.
Yeah,
Thank you for your service. I can't believe I didn't know.
it was no, thank you for the opportunity.
So-
I mean, I got to graduate from college.
Yeah.
That was the benefit from it, but yeah, it was a good time.
What branch?
I was in the National Guard, and then I went to OCS through college and all that. And there was an OCS program at
Officer Candidate School.
yeah, and did about 6.5 years, and then
Well, you spent some time overseas and did some
Yeah.
different things.
went to Egypt. Got to see some really interesting places. Someday I'd like to go back to those places. You know,
Yeah.
that was that was a good time. I mean, it was a tough time, but good experience anyway.
Yeah. So I think we should just get some high level outdoor adventure notes from him. of
Well, I was going to say,
accomplishments.
so last year, just to kind of build you up in your hunting credentials, and I think like looking into someone's trophy case, you always got to kind of take with a grain of salt because, you know, and maybe again, my fault. I went to your house the first day we met and I walk in your garage and there, I don't know how many elk,
I don't know.
let's call them heads, but you really just take the skull cap and hang them in the rafters. Elk
Well,
antlers. I mean, how many are up there?
I have no idea, but I can tell you
I'm going to say it's like probably 20 plus at least.
probably. Yeah,
There's a California bighorn sheep hanging in your
in my house.
house.
Well, here's how I look at that: is I love taxidermy, but I love to hunt way more.
Well, and these aren't like, and again, I say looking at your trophy case, take with a grain of salt because you could hire a guide over 20 years to go take you to do all that stuff. But what I've realized is that's like DIY, public land, you know, figuring it out.
Almost public land. Yeah.
I mean, working hard. I mean, you killed 2 public land bulls in the West in Idaho and Oregon this past year.
No, I'm sorry. That I did not kill a bull in Idaho this year.
Okay, you helped somebody kill a bull.
You guided,
Two of my
you
friends.
called in 2 bulls for other people.
Yeah, two of my brother and my close friend Andy. And believe me, I take that as a success. But I didn't punch my tag, which is fine. I didn't need to, but did kill a good 6-point over in Northeast Oregon, which was good. Yeah,
Big blacktail.
the blacktail was significant.
Had all kinds of kickers and stickers and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't even know
yeah.
blacktail could get.
Beautiful buck. So thankful for that deer.
But you've been working for years. You've known about this buck for years, and
I knew about him, but I thought he got killed. He got wounded last year. And my neighbor, I was chatting with him, and he had talked to somebody that said that this deer got wounded, and he had a drop time. And I was like, man, that's a bummer. And never had that deer on any trail camera after that. And then one day, here he comes grunting in at 37 yards as I'm getting ready to draw on a nice 4-point. So it all worked out.
And then the week before that, you killed your best mule deer with a bow, right?
Oh yeah, like went over to Idaho and that's the first time. The thing that I remember about that hunt the most is I haven't had buck fever like that in years. I was jacked up. I had to actually do the like yell at myself inside my head to calm down because this buck just came in to like 40 yards and I'm just like, and I knew he was working his way that way, so I ambushed him, but yeah, that was good. And then it was a great fall. Went to Texas, and I mean, the Texas hunting was it's a different culture down there.
Totally.
Totally different type of hunting. Loved it. Loved the people. Holy cow. My friend Brian Stevens invited me down there, and then the thing that I think I enjoyed more than killing those bucks or hunting those bucks was the friends of his that were in the camp there. Um, there's this one gentleman, I don't remember his last name, Chapman, Chase Chapman. This dude is the funniest person. We'll have to get him on a call here, because I promise you, he is one of the funniest people I've ever met. And
Good Texans don't lack character.
no, there's a ton of character. And then his other buddy, shoot, I think it was Kyle. These two guys, I belly laughed for hours being around them. That was so much fun.
Having lived in Texas for over a decade, I mean, the people in Texas and the culture there is just, it's special. It is.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate the Oregon hunting, the public land, big, rugged country, open spaces.
Yeah.
But you just have to appreciate Texas culture.
Yeah. Yeah. The opportunity here, opportunity in the West, that's a huge draw. But it's totally a different hunting setup there. But I really enjoyed it. I had a great time.
Yeah.
And then I did not fill a tag in Oklahoma. So there's 2 tags. But that's okay. I didn't, I had a great time hanging out at my buddy's farm. And
And you guided several successful hunts this year too, didn't you? 2 or 3?
a few. Yeah. I don't take near the numbers anymore. I'm just mostly taking return clients. I did just pick up some new private land yesterday that we can hunt on. So I'm booking a couple more rifle and a couple more bow, which that'll be good, because
To put it in context, you guided for 15 years, 20 years?
well, I did my first guiding job at 18, and then sporadically until 2013. So that would have been,
So 2013 is when Southern Oregon Blacktails became a business?
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah. So I've been outfitting on my own since 13. So what's that?
10
12,
years.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And over that time, you probably 200, 300 successful hunts?
Oh, yeah, truly, I don't even know, but probably.
Yeah.
I probably was taking 10 to 15 guys a year.
Yeah.
Needless to say, when Mike tells me about how to hunt in Southern Oregon now, I listen.
I do appreciate that, because this is no joke. At the beginning, Marshall's like, "Hey, man, yeah, this is a pretty good buck. I won't send it to you, but I'll show it to you." It's like, okay, fine. I don't, I get it. You don't trust me from Adam. And then it was like, "What do you think?" And I tell you what I think, and then you call me back a month later. You go, "You're not going to believe it. He did exactly what you said he was going to do." I'm like,
Okay, I got one story on that real quick, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here this year on a buck. I glassed up a buck. He's like 700-800 yards away, and he beds. Well, I didn't know. He just disappeared into a patch of brush, and I'm just sitting there kind of fuming, like, what do I do next? Do I put a stalk on him? What do I do? And I looked at my phone. I'm like, I happen to have signal. I called him, and literally he goes, "Oh, he bedded down in this little, he will get up again. Guaranteed, somewhere when the sun hits, he will get back up and you'll get another chance at this buck. Just hang tight." I'm like, okay. 3 hours go by. I'm scrolling, I'm Googling, I'm checking email. I'm bored out of my mind waiting for this deer to stand up. And the fog kept rolling in and rolling out, so I didn't know if he left in there. I had done every mine trap, stupid thing. But the last thing he said to me is, "You will believe he's gone, but you need to stay there because he's still there." I'm like, okay, fine. So I sat there, my butt's numb, my legs are numb. Like, I'm pretty much feel like I've gone crazy. At 11:15, that was 7:30 in the morning, 11:15, the buck stands up and I kill him.
Yeah.
Exactly how he said it was going to play out.
You're giving me credit, but I learned that from somebody a long time ago,
Sure.
2002. But the saying goes that I remember learning is, if you've seen them with blacktail, this is blacktail. If you see a blacktail go into brush and you don't see him leave, he's there.
Yeah.
And you always think he's left.
Well, now I have that life lesson for the rest of my life that I will not forget.
And I'll tell you what, I've that stuck with me. And every time I've tested it, the deer's still there.
Yep.
Every single time.
Well, the fog was a mind numbing, like a mind screwing up thing. Every time it come in, I'm like, oh, he left. Then it would
Yeah.
lift and nothing would change.
The sage wisdom this guy breathes on Huntington Northwest is just, I mean, just not to tell us full story here, but like I was hunting a big buck on our property that I told Mike about all summer. He was like, he kind of just told me, he's like, hey, watch out. Like I saw it happen once, like 15 years ago. I had a big buck about like that.
Monster
And
with
3
the drop
days,
time. Yeah.
3 days before the season, he just disappeared. And guess what? You're going to think he's gone. You're going to think he got killed. You're going to think he got eaten by a lion. He'll come back. Probably going to be like mid-November. I'm telling you, to the T.
October 23rd, actually.
I was ready to give up that this deer had gone and just gotten himself killed. I didn't know what happened. Couldn't explain it. It was like to the day. Mike told me what was going to happen before and after it happened. I couldn't believe it. Now, when he talks, I listen. Whether it's how to manage my property for big deer or how to hunt elk, on public land, I listen. There's going to be a lot of more.
Yeah.
This is the first of many.
My head is just getting huge, but
Yeah.
but just know that sometimes they get poached.
Yeah.
That was what I had 2 stories to share with you. One was a deer that got poached 6 days before the season and disappeared. Another one disappeared about 12 days before the season and then showed back up on October 23rd. And I'm glad to hear that your deer didn't get poached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we
there's
gotta-
so much to unpack in life and hunting and outdoor adventure.
Absolutely. And I think in the when we post this episode, we'll share some photos of your conquests and
Okay.
just give folks an idea of what kind of animals you're after and
Yeah.
some of the hunts that you've been on in the past. And I'm hoping we get to do a couple hunts together, maybe some predator hunts here
Oh,
late in the season. Maybe we get some low
yeah.
snow and chase a lion or something like that.
I'm ready. Well, my dad's got that cow tag. We need to do that in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
He doesn't want to kill one after 2 weeks because doesn't want to have 2 for 1,
Yeah.
just in case it's pregnant,
Yeah.
So we need to get on that. But I really appreciate you inviting me on, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks
Well,
for the workout.
I
Boy,
can't wait to.
the steam has finally stopped.
Well, I'm starting to visibly shake because it is
That
cold
heater's
in
not
here,
helping?
and all that sweat we worked up in the first hour is starting to maybe freeze in the second hour. So we'll call it here. We got a bunch of exciting stuff coming up. That
Yep.
cow hunt I think is going to be really cool. That'd be a great way to get out in the field and then recap that
Yeah,
with
let's do it.
folks.
Mhm.
I'm going to the National Bison Conference here in a couple weeks, and I've got a couple of interesting things I'm working on in the bison world that I think would be cool to tell folks about in the next couple of weeks. Let's see, I'm going archery sheep hunting in Texas at the end of the month with our friends over at Archery Country.
Oh, wow.
What do you got going on in the next couple of weeks? Some more
I got a
good
lot
workouts?
of work. I'm trying to get caught up from not the start to the year that I planned.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for most of us, this time of year is pretty busy.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I should say, because we're blessed to have successful careers. And for me, at least, like this is the time of year where I got to put my head down and
Yeah.
get a lot of good work done so that
100%.
in the back end of the year, the fall comes, I can, go on my elk hunt and do the things we like to do.
Yeah, for me, it's about consistency right now, just setting those right habits for the whole rest of the year so that I can be available to do the things I want to do later. So
Absolutely.
very consistent. That's the goal right now.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank
First
you.
of many.
Yeah, hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. See you soon.